Hafa everybody. Good morning. Thanks for starting your day the KUAM way. You are watching Crime Time, and we are now here at the Southern Precinct Command in the village of Agat. Paul, you want to start things off?
Hey, half a day, and welcome to the beautiful southern side of our beautiful island of Guam. And I want to thank the commander, Captain Kim Santos, and of course
Hi.
her deputy commander, Lieutenant Yi, for allowing us to be down here to showcase some of the challenges that we have at the southern precinct. And as we started the tour, we started at Dededo Precinct. We talked about the population size that they have to endure, and you can see the dynamics as it shifted towards the Tumon area, where it's really the Tumon industry, the hotel side, and the tourist aspect of everything, and back down to Agana, where it's the hub, the capital, dealing with government functions and everything. But nonetheless, the history that lies in Agana, and now here at the last precinct, the Southern Precinct Command, and you're going to see the dynamics had shifted to where from a population to a business to the capital site to now more of a geographic feature of challenges, because these guys have to cover the whole southern end of the island. And again, I just want to echo what all other precincts were echoing about the shortage of manpower. These guys operate out of a 1-1-4 operation. That's one supervisor, one desk watch, and 4 personnel. And it the beautiful thing about being down in the south is, in my opinion, of course, is the pillar families that still are here, and this helps us with what we do with police work. And but nonetheless, some of the challenges that we face will be, I guess, better addressed by the commander and the deputy commander, and then we'll shortly introduce you to a field supervisor and maybe one of the officers to talk about what they see on a daily basis. So get a feel of the south. It's here, it's the south, it's beautiful, but again, we still have the challenges.
All right. And so, Captain Kim, again, the commander of the Southern Precinct Command, this is actually your first time being stationed down here, right?
Yes, yes.
And so
I
tell
love
us-
it.
Yeah. So what are the main differences from being up north to down south? And also just if you could talk about the villages that the Southern Precinct covers.
Okay, first of all, Hafade Guam and KUAM, thank you for giving us this opportunity to give our community a quick overview about what our precinct here, our personnel, the challenges we face, but also a lot of the good. There's a lot of good that comes with the bad too. The southern, this, like I said, this is the first time I've been assigned to the south, but I've got to tell you, I think the southern part of Guam is actually the most beautiful part of Guam, because we still have the pristine beaches. It's not as commercialized in this part of the island, and you still get a taste of old Guam, and so we love it. Our area of coverage is essentially from Adelup all the way up Route 1 to Naval Station, and you come on to Route 2 into Agat, Santa Rita. We also cover Apra Heights, Inarahan, Malolo, Maritzo, Umatic, on to parts of Jotnya. Did I miss any of the other?
No.
Spot on, pretty much. And we have a population of approximately 37,000 plus. That does not include our military, because we do have Naval Station as a part of our area of responsibility, right? They're in our area of responsibility. And we have we have 14 schools. And that includes 4 or 5 private schools. And the rest are public schools. In this area, LT, why don't I turn it over to you, and you can talk about some of the issues we face down here.
Yeah. So what are some of the challenges?
Well, being that we're down south, we cover the largest geographical area of Guam, although it's the smallest population. So having a big geographical area, it's challenging in itself because of the response time. Having the amount of officers we do, getting from one side of the island to the other, it does create challenges, response times, and it just basically covering the entire area. But I got to give my hats off to our officers down here. They do their best job down here, covering all the shortfalls that we may have. But it's great. I mean, we do our best down here. We do our best, and we try to provide the best service we can to the people of Guam.
And if I can chime in, although we do face shortages, like that's known. We do ensure that our beats are covered. We do ensure that we respond out and that we're serving the community as best we can, and with whatever means we have in place. And when we are short, we do reach out to the other precincts for assistance. And if manpower is, if there's a need to get somebody reassigned down here temporarily, then that's done. And I know for a fact that our governor and lieutenant governor are doing what they can to actually hire more police officers so that we get better coverage and that we address a lot of the problems that are going on out here. I think since I've been down here, and surprisingly to me, if I can say, I'm concerned about drug use and abuse, most especially the use and abuse of methamphetamines. I'll actually go out and ride along with the officers on patrol at different hours of the day and night, just so I know what's going on. I get a better handle on what we're dealing with out here. And what I found surprising, and we always want to say what's right, but I think more so than saying what's right, we want to do what's right. And I'm concerned about when I drive through a village, and I used to, when I was younger, when I first came to Guam, you drive through a village, you'd see older people, right? And they're still productive, they're fixing their lawns. Now I'm seeing younger people walking the streets. They're a lot thinner. They look amped up, if I may say, and it just seems that drug use is more commonplace, as opposed to, say, in the 90s when I worked investigations. And if you heard that there were people using drugs, you'd identify a certain home or a certain location and families and say, oh man, and it would be a big thing, like, wow. Now you drive through the villages and you see people, walking around, they're non-productive, wandering aimlessly. And we're getting a lot more drug-related crimes that are occurring. The thefts down in this area. There used to be a time when it was few and far between that you'd hear of thefts in the South, occurring in the South. But now we're getting a lot more child neglect, child abuse cases. I rode with the guys last week, and we responded to a case where a woman had left her children with a neighbor. And actually, it wasn't a neighbor, it was someone on down the street, and it was really sad. The woman looked like she had been sleeping. We had to find her. Looked like she had been sleeping all day long, and those weren't her only children. And you see that more often now than you did, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I just see it as a vicious cycle. And something's got to give. We've got to do something. Do we put more stringent laws into place? Do we, I think we need to come together as a community to address the issue. The nice thing is, and if I may use this opportunity, the Guam Police Department has a group of gentlemen, and these are from our community, who are a part of our honorary deputy chiefs of police program, honorary deputy chiefs of police. And we are actually reaching out to them, and they chime in, and we want to come together to see how we can address these problems. Because it's not going to be just law enforcement to address, most especially the drug problem. It's going to take the whole community. It really is. I'm sorry, I could go on and on about it, but it's something that truly needs to be addressed. Former Chief of Police, Paul Suba, who is a member of the Honorary Deputy Chiefs of Police, actually sent a link to us. And if I recall, and I'd like to send that to you so you can watch it and read it. It's called Seattle is Dying. Anybody out there, if you have an opportunity, just Google it, Seattle is Dying. And what is mentioned in that article, we are seeing happening here on Guam. It's a sad but true fact. So
If you could just tell me a little bit about that article, and also when you send me the link, we'll post it on this at the
okay,
bottom of the show.
absolutely. So what the link they're talking about, I guess these gentlemen identify that they see that there's a problem, a growing problem in Seattle. And they talk about homelessness, they talk about drug addiction, and then the rest of the community, and about how Seattle is nothing like what it was many years ago. And it's just I would prefer, because I will do it no justice right now. It would be best if anyone and everyone out there that's watching this actually go onto that link and read and watch the little video clip that they put out, because it does reflect what's going on here on Guam. Just on here on Guam, it's on a much smaller scale. Yeah.
What about you, Lieutenant? How have you seen Guam change?
Well, like the captain said, we've seen a big change over the years. I mean, I've seen a big change over the years, and a lot of it has to do with of course, drugs. We see a lot of the crime that's related to drugs, and it's not the same Guam that I know when I was a child. I mean, you can leave your car unlocked, you can leave your house unlocked. You really can't do that nowadays, and it's sad to see, especially from us. We see it every day, and we need to come together as a community, like the captain said, and we ask the community to get involved. We do have a robust community watch program down here, and it does work. It does work because everybody gets on the chat. They see suspicious activity or anything that they're concerned about, they'll put it out, and that helps us. It's a tool for us to help the community. And I ask, everybody should should get involved and take interest in their community to help us help them.
Right, and I know that's been those reoccurring themes and things we've been talking about in Crime Time is about the community partnerships and how important it is that people be involved.
And Captain Santos and Lieutenant Yi is spot on. We're talking about the social vice that we're facing, and I report it pretty much on a daily basis. The drug activity, the seizures and the apprehension, and being down south, the hardest part, and I'll be true, and I'll be true to my words. The hardest part in with dealing with interdiction and mitigation approach in addressing the drug issue is that your pillar families tend to turn a cheek when it's a family member, and really it's understanding that the vices that grips them, it's really the vice that's going to control them, and we want to break that cycle, like what Captain Kim had mentioned. How do we break the cycle? It's really engaging in the community and the community coming forward, because we stress it all the time that the Neighborhood Watch program is not going to be police centric. We ask and we keep reiterating it has to be community centric, and having family members identify that, hey, I have a family member that's facing addiction. I have a family member that's going through the cycle. What can we do? And taking a holistic approach, taking that everybody come together concept, that's exactly where I think the solution lies. Is if we approach it from a holistic side, we can only do so much in law enforcement. But what about recovery? What about spiritual guidance? What about educating in the schools? Approaching it from that standpoint, I think we use the word, force multipliers. We can do our part in enforcement, but educating and empowering the community of what's happening, because you see it. You see the effects and the toll that it's taking here in the southern villages, and it's a shame when you go into the beautiful southern villages, the pristine waters and everything, and to see family members and to hear that, hey, I don't want to report it because that's my sobrino, that's my primo's, Sometimes it's called tough love. I've done it before. I've actually had to put my foot down because I care about my family members. And once we start realizing where we can go and what we can, how we can help, this is how we approach it from a holistic standpoint. And this is where the community comes in, and this is where we put all our solution finding mechanisms on the table, and we work collectively as a community.
Well, if I may say, oftentimes families don't know what to do. They don't know how to approach the deal. And the problem is, and one of the biggest issues is, we have people that are actually selling these drugs. It's a very lucrative business, if I can call it that, for these folks. And they're reaching out. We're seeing more drug use in the schools. We're seeing alcohol and drug use in the schools in this area. I'm not going to be specific on or about which schools, but we need to address it at all schools, actually. I think, if I may share, when I first came to Guam as a kid, I can remember, and I'd like to use this analogy, and I've shared it with many people. When I first came to Guam as a kid, the first Chamorro word I learned, my mother is from California, my dad's Chamorro, right? The first Chamorro word I learned was the word kahulu. We lived right behind the church in Sinahanya, and they would actually wake us, my grandmother, we would hear the church bell ringing. That St. Jude's church bell is so loud, and my grandmother would be tapping us. Kahulu, let's go to church. So this is what I saw as a kid. This is the analogy I make. God came first, family came second, friends came third, other people fourth, and things last. So, however, people, their values have changed. I've seen it. I see it all over. Not everyone, but most certainly many. People value things more now. They value what other people think about them. Whether they look sexy, they're looking good, and they're doing their thing on Facebook. Sorry, Facebook is still a good thing if you use it the right way.
Right.
Anything else,
The right way.
and then of course friends. Because you want somebody to hee hee ha ha with, and then family. Because when you're down and out and you need food or you need a place to stay, you're gonna go home, and God last. And it's a very sad but true scenario. And my thing is that I believe morals do drive behavior. And when you have your morals in place and you have your values in place, when I first came to Guam, most Chamorros, I felt so safe. I absolutely loved everything about Guam, and I never wanted to leave. And I saw that Chamorros valued a good name, hard work, honesty, decency, family, God, and it's really changed. And I'm going to tell you, drugs will change that. And the more it's out there, and the more it gets into our schools, and the sad thing is the younger a person starts using drugs, the harder it is for them to become rehabilitated, and that's a fact. So I could go on and on about it, but our community needs to know, and we're seeing it down south. That we're seeing it in the communities down here. Something I never thought I'd see. It's almost like my mother saying she never thought she would see the day Chamorro would be begging on the side of the road.
What's beautiful? What's the beautiful thing about this is the precinct commander is passionate about it, and it really is.
I'm very passionate
It is,
about it.
something that a vice such as addiction and the use of crystal methamphetamine. It really, when you have a passionate commander with the deputy alongside, the initiatives and what these hardworking men and women put out, really understanding that, when we go into one of the pillar families, they're not going to give up their names. They're not going to, because these are the challenges that we face. But when you have the leadership like Captain Santos and Lieutenant Yi, that passionate, and just listen to the words and what they're saying, there's a lot of great things that are coming up. Captain Kim was instrumental with our CRU program by sending out officers just to hear questions about concerns that the community has, and it was really, how do we address it as the Guam Police Department? These are the small things and what they're doing, and Cap, I admire the passion and the fire.
I had Officer John Edwards and Officer Beneventi. I've had Lawrence Osborne. Who else on Garcia, Greg Garcia. But I actually, and it was really John Edwards' brainchild. And I welcome, if somebody comes to me, any of my staff come to me and say, hey, Cap, maybe we should do this. It was really John Edwards' brainchild. Cap, why don't I set up a pop-up tent? And we set up down by, I think it was Circle K, different parts of the village. And we availed ourselves to the community. You have any questions, stop by. I mean, he had this big yellow sign posted, and they sat out there on their little pop-up chairs, and they made themselves available to the community. But it's going to take more than just that. It was a good thing. It's going to take more than just that. And I want to, on the note, because I really, I can't stand drug use, illegal drug use and abuse. People that are using are not necessarily bad people. They just made a poor choice by taking that step and taking a drug. I've never even tried marijuana, even as a kid. I hear people say, oh, everybody's tried it. Well, I never have. As I had a dad who kind of guided me along the way, like you were saying, Sarge. And they're not bad people. They just need to realize that they're headed down the wrong path, and that drug, methamphetamine, is so addictive, and it's a hard one to beat and get out of. And I could go into a whole tirade about that, but everybody needs to educate themselves. People need to pay attention. I made sure, when as a single mom, I made sure I did bag checks on my children. I knew who their friends were. And when I say bag checks, I went through their notebooks so I could see, because you'll find out a lot of stuff you go through a kid's backpack. And it's those little things. But really, love your families and just make the choice. I'm not going to do this anymore. And it's a vicious cycle, because I believe if if selling drugs is lucrative, that's what people are going to do. If they don't have the right morals in place. I don't care about, I don't want to contaminate my island or my community. I want to work hard, because hard work pays off.
And you're right, though. You are seeing more burglaries, more robberies,
you see
home
it
invasions.
Home
that
invasions, you name it. And it doesn't help, because we've got our homeless population. Now we've got a growing homeless population. And that's another issue we have to deal with. But we're seeing more of even foreigners, or I shouldn't say foreigners, but people that aren't actually, weren't born and raised here, that are getting involved. I happen to be driving home one day, and I live, further that way, and I encountered this young man. They were fighting in the middle of the road, and of course I stopped, and the one guy says, they took my bike. I just said, hey, what's going on? I was in civvies. And at some point they kind of looked at me and were like, who are you? And I said, listen, I'm a police officer. Things aren't all right. There's something going on. And that's what we need to do. People need to step up and say, hey, there's something going on, report it. Don't turn a blind eye, because it's just going to proliferate and get worse. But what I found out is that, hey, they took my bike. Hey, you guys, return his bike. And then the guy goes and he goes, officer, they're dealing drugs over there. I'm like, okay, it's time to get patrol here. And I did, and I called patrol. But that's just one of many, many stories that we can share. So read the article and watch
Once
it.
you give me the link, we'll
I
post
will.
it. Well, let's go inside and meet some of the fine officers here at the Southern Precinct. How long have you been here?
I've been here about a year and a half.
You're not, okay.
Same amount of time, the both of us.
I've actually never been to the Southern Precinct.
So this is the Southern Precinct Command. This was actually constructed right after the Dededo Precinct Command. The old precinct was actually situated by the mayor's office, and it was a shared space with Guam Fire and, of course, the mayor. And what better way to give you the tour is to actually bring in the duty sergeant, Officer Ton Chaco. He is this guy wear many hats before in the Guam Police Department, and it is his stature really does speak volumes of a man of authority and stuff. But he's been instrumental in our development of our candidates that came to their special operations, in molding them and grooming them into becoming our SWAT operators of who they are. But he's actually taken the tour for the last 3 years here at Southern Precinct Command, and he's the precinct commander. So, ladies and gentlemen, half a day and welcome Sergeant Ton Chaco.
Half a day.
Good day.
Welcome to Agat Precinct. I'd like to go and give you guys a tour. This place was pretty much built, I think, about approximately 10 years ago. These are pretty much our interview rooms as you walk into this area. We have about total of 4 interview rooms. It's a little bit echo in here, so these are interview rooms.
Is this bigger than the Dededo Precinct?
They're supposed to be the same specs.
Ah.
Same specs. That's also our breathalyzer, so usually we have them breathe low in there so they can determine their. Of course, here it's just standardized like all the other precincts.
Holding cells?
Yeah, pretty much our holding cells. We've had some pretty much complicated people here, as you can see. While they're in there, they actually even take their slippers and use it as a.
To write
Yes,
walls?
just to show they've been here.
Wow.
Yes.
So you've been here for 3 years?
Yes.
Where else were you?
I was
Because
at,
you've been GBD for a long
yes,
time.
I've been in for already 30 years.
Oh,
So I wasn't specialized. I was at detectives recently and then special ops.
wow. Okay.
That's right. And then we show you again, this is our common area. Our officers, sorry about the lighting. This is our kitchen in the side. We don't want to showcase that, but we do want to showcase how committed we are to our physical fitness. I think Sergeant Chaco is the man behind this, the brainchild, our fitness area. Trying to stay in tune with the demands of our officers' PFQT standards. These officers with their busy schedule, they still take the time to make sure they put in the exercise. So the space that was available to them, this was actually, put in so that the officers can actually put in some sweat and maintain health and safety standards with the expectation with the new PFQT in which we're required. But, I want to, if I can, I want to bring on Officer Lucius to talk. He's one of our latest graduated, and we can come outside because the audible sound, and I guess we can end it with Officer Lucius. And so Officer Lucius has just completed the cycle. He endured 6 months of training, and, he's actually earning his keep and his bones here in the department. And, this is the proving ground for every new officer, and I believe this is your second year?
Yes, my second year at
So,
Southern Precinct.
tell them about what some of the challenges and everything that you see in your daily life as a full-fledged police officer one.
Sure.
What made you want to be a police officer?
Ever since I was a child, first of all, welcome to the South. Okay. Ever since I was a child, I always went on to be a police officer, law enforcement in general. For the most part, it's just a family thing, I would say. I have a bunch of family members in law enforcement, both stateside and here. And it's always been a driven for me to pursue that.
So you've been on the force for 2 years?
Yes, for 2 years.
What's it been like for you?
I want to say it's everything I expected, a little bit more. Not too sure if Sarge talked about it, but, with the landmass as far as in the south, right, we cover from Adelup, down Route 1, all the way to Jotnia, the lower part of Jotnia. So it's a large landmass. And so, with the amount of manpower that we got here in the south, actually in the department-wide, as far as the patrol level, response time, that's probably one of the essence here. Getting there safely, making sure that we're having due regard for safety of others, right? And just making sure that the community has our trust. And we up until this day, we are always trying to make sure that the community is satisfied with our services. And so,
One of the things that Captain Santos was mentioning was what she's seen. She's seen just an increase in drug use in the community. Is that also what you're seeing and experiencing out there?
yes, definitely. Prior to me becoming an officer, it was always on the news, and now I'm seeing firsthand on what it's like being out here, finding contraband, pullovers, also within the schools, with the schools there's been a heavy activity as far as the contraband that's being brought in. So that's one of our objectives here in the South, especially, to make sure that we get these and get our kids safe. It is addiction with controlled substance, especially controlled substance 2. And yes. But it goes both ways with all substance abuse. We just do our best to try to make sure that we're role models out there. Being me being young, I want to say I'm still very, very young, right? And so a lot of the kids, they can kind of relate to me. They always come up to me and they're like, "Hey, sir, are you you look like you just graduated high school." I'm like, "Well, thank you." Maybe you can join the force one day too. So, it's good to be out there and help as much as I can with the students and engage with them.
When you say students in schools, are we talking about high schools, middle school, or elementary? Where are we seeing this problem with drugs?
A lot of it is really from working with DOE. We're actually seeing the gateway tobacco. When we say contraband with the schools, it's pretty much alcohol, tobacco, or the other drugs. But what we were seeing now in the high schools is actually the hard drugs and stuff. So you would have your vape, you would have your contraband, what the schools label as contraband, moving up. But, these DOE actually has their, they actually have a mitigation process in how they do it and how they work with that. So understanding what we're dealing with and how do we address it, this is where we formed that partnership with the Guam Police Department with our community affairs, our initiative, and we tap onto a patrol a lot to come out with us to do presentations so that the kids, the students can actually see the officers that are out there serving and protecting their side of the community, rather than seeing Sergeant DePaul doing it and everything. Why not associate, somebody that they can actually relate to? But, it's there. We're if you go to the high school, the only high school here, you're going to have issues with illegal drugs and illegal contraband. Predominantly, really, it's more or less alcohol and marijuana. Some cases where in the northern school, we're seeing that, within the middle schools, it's really alcohol abuse and everything. But, nonetheless, our officers continue to work and engage with the community.
Okay, well, we thank you for your service and for taking the time out to give us a tour of the Southern Precinct. I wanted to bring in the Commander, Chaco? Shift Supervisor, sorry. Shift Supervisor Chaco for final words.
Yes, in relation to the students that we're dealing with, I believe that the home front is where we really need to start. The parents, we really need to educate the parents. These kids are learning from somewhere, it could be with their peers, but more or less, the home front is where everything starts. And, pretty much raising your kids with the right environment should get them where they need to be. Otherwise, we'll be dealing with them pretty much.
And that's Crime Time. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you again next week.
Hey,
Bye.
Alfred from the Southern Precinct.